Hey everybody, welcome aboard. Another presentation here for my indicator I'm currently working on developing. I'm going to call it the ICT Chronometer, which is basically a time-based indicator. I recorded this live this morning, as I'd mentioned, April 17th for New York Open. But unfortunately, the audio was all scrambled. So I just kind of wanted to walk through briefly what I was looking at. Um, I'd outlined on the previous video kind of what the general model is and what it's supposed to look like. It works on time cycles. So a lot of this stuff comes from Zusi and a couple of the other guys that are familiar with with the time cycle logic. But it's basically the major intraday sessions, so Asia, London, New York sessions. And then those sessions are broken down into 90-minute cycles. And then inside of the 90-minute cycles, there's 30-minute cycles. So I'm currently working on getting this um, coded into an indicator. Right now it's kind of bits and pieces from I'm using the time cycles indicator from Zusi to break up the time sessions, and then I'm adding the different variables that I want to have on it. Two is algorithmic time levels, so midnight open for the daily narrative, and then the 8:30 open, which is considered the news open for the New York morning narrative. And you'll see here I was entered into a short briefly on YM. Um, and the reasoning for that was that I was seeing an an SMT on the highs. But there was also SMT on the lows for ES and NQ. So originally, if you look on the left there, you can see my ES chart, and I was waiting to see if price would trade back above that um, that imbalance marked with the purple rectangle, and that would be my confirmation to enter the trade. But when I saw the 90-minute SMT form on the Dow, I decided to enter short. And basically, what's going to happen here is as price expands lower, I can see a new SMT form with ES. And so I move my stop to break even. And then I start looking for longs on ES with the same confirmation, looking for the same confirmation close at the top of that purple rectangle. The markets this week have been this month have been extremely bullish. So I've been primarily looking at long positions. So I was looking to basically sell one contract at 1-to-1 and then probably sell one more at 2-to-1. But sometimes I like to try and let the runners go. But I wasn't really sure with SMTs on the top and the bottom. Sometimes it's kind of hard to really have a lot of conviction in letting the runners go. So most likely would have sold it at 2-to-1. But anyways, you'll see here rate not not quite yet. But if you watch the chart on the left, ES is going to create a lower low here, and YM is not. And once that happens, I'm pretty quick to move my stop. There it is there. So ES creates a lower low, and it kind of rejects it. And as soon as that happens, I slide my stop down. So now that was almost a another confirmation for the SMTs on the lows, because S and Q basically turned around and made a higher high. I believe. I think we're going to swap over to NQ here in a minute, and I'll confirm. But it looked to me as if we were going to be moving higher from here. So I get stopped out of my position there, and now I'm watching that for that inversion gap to be, well, it's not inverted yet, but I'm watching the imbalance, the bearish imbalance there on ES, and I'm waiting for price to close above. The indicator is basically going to be a cycle SMT detector. And once it detects a cycle SMT, so either an SMT between sessions, so Asia, London, New York, or between 90 and 30-minute cycles. So say cycle one, the first 90-minute cycle, um, for ES sweeps Asia low, but NQ does not. That will trigger the first stage, so the SMT will show up, and then once that's triggered, the imbalance will be highlighted, and the confirmation will be waiting for a close above the imbalance that created the expansion. The expansion, how okay, let's say the imbalance that caused the expansion leg that created the SMT. We're waiting for a close above or below that, so we'll be able to see that coming up here. You'll see that swing high there. That's all-time highs. So I was still very cautious, um, kind of anticipating the possible rejection. And I just kind of highlighted the macro there, which the indicator is also going to do automatically, which I like. It looks really clean so far, but it's going to highlight that macro window, which for me is 940 to 1015. I like that macro. And then 1040 to 1115. And at the moment, in terms of my risk management, I'm really enjoying the, if I can get two contracts, taking one contract off at 1-to-1 and then holding a runner. Ideally, can hold 2 or 3 runners if your drawdown allows for it, but because my accounts are kind of in drawdown right now, I've been experimenting with this model. I'm just risking 2 contracts, so basically my risk at the moment, I have 4 accounts, and my risk is about, ideally I don't really want to lose more than $100 per day. You can see YM already inverted that price level that I was looking at, and seems to be moving aggressively towards that March high. And really, like, has already made all-time highs, and Q's slightly lagging. You'll find out that it does eventually reach new all-time highs today, just shortly after I close this session. So YM has a little ways to go to catch up. So it seemed pretty high probability that that high it created was not going to be the high of the day. So now I'm just waiting for that close above the box on ES. I think it takes a couple more candles to get there. You can see I swapped back over to NQ on the right. And there was that SMT within the 30-minute cycle. I feel like those are good secondary confluences. Ideally, you want the 30 and 90-minute SMTs, but I do like when I see SMTs inside of the boxes as well. So ES created a lower low, and ES only swept the previous 30-minute cycle, whereas NQ properly displaced below it before coming back into the range. So that seemed fairly bullish to me. Currently on ES, you can see the wicks and the bodies are respecting the mid-level. So I'm waiting to see a close above that level and then a proper close above the box. I feel like it can be really easy to get ahead of yourself here and just enter the trade thinking that it's going to run off, but based on the data that I've been collecting, it's very high probability that even if there's a little expansion outside of the box here, you usually get a wick back into it. And oftentimes you can get a retracement back through the box, but this is the model. So once I see the close above the box, it's very mechanical. It's just enter, stop loss, and that's it. We got about 20 seconds left here in the candle, so just waiting for the close now. There we go, candle close, so I enter limit order. And I think I jumped out a little bit early, um, just because I suspected there could be some volatility around the all-time highs. I wasn't sure if we were going to get a sweep, or particularly since NQ hadn't even reached that inversion level yet. I was a little bit weary, so I was just trying to mitigate risk. At this point, YM was already well on its way past that swing point, I believe, that old swing high. So that gave me greater conviction in the trade here. Kind of just waiting for NQ to catch up now. Something to note is we clearly had the SMT still at the highs. And that's a 90-minute SMT with YM, but I'd mentioned in this video that it would appear as if SMTs between ES and NQ are higher probability, and SMTs with YM I find are more are are like secondary confirmations almost. So I'm going to try and have that coded into the indicator, as well as having different tiers of SMT, like high probability or medium or low probability SMTs, and then having a table to somehow display that. I think I end up just manually buying one contract here, just so I could take some risk off of the table. And I was anticipating, just because that was all-time highs, there was a possibility of a sweep and a rejection here, particularly with NQ lagging. You can see below there my stop is still set to 2. I changed it to 1. It seems like something to take note of in TradingView, that it seems like, at least on my end, when I place an original market or limit order, if I sell a contract afterwards, I pretty much need to remove that stop limit order and then create a new one, or it just keeps defaulting back to the original entry, which is not ideal. I think I catch it here in a second. We end up getting a nice little expansion outside of the all-time high, and then I don't hang on for too much longer because I'm trying to recover these accounts, so just trying to go for small wins. But the idea behind the trade was that if ES is making new all-time highs and YM was steadily climbing through March's high, then it was highly probable that NQ was also going to make new all-time highs. So if I wanted to hold on for longer, I could have just waited for NQ to touch all-time highs and then sell my ES contract at that point. See here, I try to change it. I think it'll default back to 2. I end up holding on for a couple more minutes here. Basically watching NQ to see if it's going to displace above the entry candle there. Or the purple rectangle for simplicity. You can see I'm just marking out that preemptive SMT because we now have a 90-minute SMT between ES and NQ. So if NQ doesn't catch up, then there could be a strong rejection there. And I think because NQ was still lagging inside of the purple box there, I thought there was even a higher possibility that the price could possibly reject from here. I was anticipating NQ displacing through the box now, so I lowered my stop slightly. I think here I just realized I hadn't logged into TradeSyncer yet, so I was just looking to confirm whether or not my my trades copied to my other accounts, which they had, fortunately. You can see I'm trading pretty small risk, small size. I have those 350s. They're all in drawdown. My 300K account's in drawdown, so it's time to lock it in and get these accounts back into good standing. Small wins, small size until I get a bigger buffer, and then I'm just going to keep collecting data for the development of this indicator. And I'll add a couple screenshots maybe at the end of this, just to show kind of what I'm anticipating the indicator will look like when it's completed. And I think I take one more little push higher here, and then I end up exiting my position. A decent little move for the day, especially being Friday and at all-time highs. You don't want to hold these, or I don't want to hold these for too long. SMT is still intact at the highs, so. And NQ's just starting to displace above. I closed my position there, so that ended up being some good data points collected there. It was interesting to see that SMT form on the first trade, and then being able to quickly exit and then jump on the reversal. So I'm happy with that. Something to record and think about. Maybe I'll find some way to implement that in terms of risk management into the indicator. But I'm pretty happy with that for today. So I'll try to add some screens of the model and just keep working on the development. So yeah, thanks for checking in. This might have been long-winded and boring, but I hope it was at least somewhat informal. And we'll catch you on the next one as I keep updating the videos. Cheers.